Welcome to We the People. My name is Rahbyn and I am thanking you for joining us today for this half hour of community power. This week we are going to talk about the high cost of pilots in Hempstead Village and School District. It's a foreshadowing show. You know, the upcoming statewide school elections are rapidly approaching us. There's been a lot of controversy about the state-mandated caps. And in high-risk communities like Hempstead, we have a 2% cap. And as it came out at the board meeting, due to our eroding tax base, that 2% cap will actually look more like a 5% cap, because we are still losing so much of our tax base that we have to compensate for that first, and then our 2% tax cap kicks in. So here we have another state or federal law, this one is in this case a state law, that is supposed to bring relief or some kind of qualitative improvement in situations and circumstances affecting residents across the state. But Hempstead, once again, is left behind. This is an issue, you know, this way that we pass all these laws. In the past 20 years, so many changes in educational law have transpired, and it still is amazing that the positive impact of those laws never quite trickles down into our classrooms, into our schools, into our homes, and into our community. And so we wanted to revisit this issue of pilots and of the erosion to Hempstead's tax base to kind of put a context around what for me is the #1 issue facing us locally. But it ultimately is one of economic exploitation. And so we've been doing more research, and part of what we want to do in this program is to bring you at least 10 to 15 minutes each week on this issue, so that we can begin to spread a common understanding of this problem, and we can begin to use a common vocabulary or language when we talk about it. Hempstead is undergoing its first major revitalization or redevelopment project in a very long time. It's been maybe 5 years of planning for this downtown revitalization project. And I met recently, along with members of the group Democracy Inspired Voter Awareness, DIVA, with those developers to try to, you know, in a smaller closed session with less distractions, really begin to have a meaningful conversation about the feasibility of developing our way out of what we are now, with our informed guesstimation, saying is a $25 million loss of annual revenue in the village of Hempstead and school district of Hempstead. In 2009, the village was paid roughly $700,000 in pilots instead of the $5.2 million it would have received if at that time, I believe it was 1,900 units of housing were in fact paying their full share. Since that time, 590 and 600 have been granted a pilot by the town. I think it's 330 units of housing. One building has 216, and I think the other one has 135 or something. It's over 300 units of housing, and when they were on the tax roll in 2009, their tax bill was $1.1 million. For some reason, the town of Hempstead granted this landlord or property owner a tax exemption. One of the reasons I went back and I did some research on the Nassau County and the town of Hempstead's IDA websites, and we're going to talk more about the IDAs next week. But I went on their website and I found some reports, and one of the things that they say I think this was the county for the Adams Court project. They actually gave as the reason for the pilot that it stabilized the county's affordable housing base. Now, that is a very noble and responsible thing to do politically, to restore a low and affordable housing stock within this region is critical because of the high cost of living here. The median income in Nassau County has been reported, it was upgraded from the 2000 census. For 2010, they're reporting a $93,000 median income in Nassau County. It is the highest in the state of New York, and it's the 11th highest in the country, 93,000. The village of Hempstead, on the other hand, has a median income of about 48,000. So the disparity in income and wealth is tremendous. In addition, we have, I think it's roughly 17% of our population are individuals living below poverty. The village has the highest concentrations of poverty in the region. And we have, I think it's, I'm just checking my notes here, give me a minute. We have 15% of the county's residents that are living below poverty. We have 10% of the county's renters. We have 5% of the county's population. Our village is 3.4 miles. It's less than 1.5% of the county's 453 square miles. And yet we have these high concentrations of high-risk residents that have been sent here in large measure. These are not people that were born and raised here and then had their children and raised them here. No, these are people who come from other communities across Nassau County and now increasingly New York City and Suffolk County into the 2,258 units of subsidized affordable housing that are off of our tax roll. The problem is not that these people are here. That's not the problem. The problem is that the county and the town has taken these properties off the tax roll so that your largest concentration of businesses owned by people of color and women, your largest concentration of homeowners and property owners who are of color or women are paying a disproportionate amount of their wealth to support the region's affordable and low-income housing residents. This is the problem. Now, that's compounded by the fact that according to the developers for Renaissance Downtown and Urban America, there's really nothing that anyone can do about it. This is just one of the things that happens, and the answer that we were told, the best possible solution we have to this problem, according to the developers that will be developing our downtown, is to create enough new housing and enough new businesses and enough revitalization in our downtown area to compensate for that. Now, and a lot of people agree, and they want to sit and they want to talk about the bowling alley or the roller rink or the movie and the restaurants and the recreation centers and I think there was some proposal about a school. I don't know if it's a charter school or what that they want to bring in. It's going to bring all this money. But if you're telling us that the town and county can, whenever they choose, remove property from our tax roll as an economic development incentive, and that the cost of that will be shared among the rest of the residents who are paying property taxes either through their business or through their home or property, other rental property that they may own, that it's okay that there's a population out there that'll move here anyway, and that we're going to make up this annual loss of $25 million and growing by redeveloping more housing. So their solution, and they said that this number of 3,000 units of housing came from the mayor, that if we build 3,000 more units of housing, that we will be on our way out of this economic abyss that we're in. That doesn't make sense to me. And if it does make sense to you, you can email us or hit us up on Facebook, Stand Up Hempstead, and let me know what you're thinking. I don't see how. All right, let's just take the 3,000 number. So the first 2,258 units will compensate for the existing units, which gives us a net growth of about 750 apartments. 750 apartments, based on the way the numbers work out right now, is roughly $2 million in additional revenue. That would be our net profit. Now, you will have more property that is being taxed for the 2,258. But to me, that means we're going to recruit some new people in to help Movon and these other landlords keep their profit margin. That doesn't make sense. And I need more residents understanding and saying with me, that doesn't make sense. We want the property owners in the Hempstead community to pay their fair share. I know it's like a broken record for me, and a lot of people really hate to see me coming now, because they know my input will be that we must restore the 30 apartment buildings that are off of our tax roll back to the tax roll in order to more equitably distribute wealth in this region and to stop the exploitation of African American and Hispanic and some white homeowners. The 2% cap brings that back because for years we've talked about this erosion to the tax base, and so whatever increase that the districts give to the residents, whatever the budget amount is, we have to compensate for the loss tax base before we even get to the increase. And even with this cap, that's not going to change. Now let me give you an example of how this plays out. In the Hempstead Village and School District, resident property owners and small businesses made up $4.3 million in lost village revenue in the 2009 tax year. Today, there are roughly 2,258 housing units comprising 30 apartment buildings with these municipal exemptions. That's up from last year. The Incorporated Village of Hempstead received $70,000 in pilots from these apartments instead of the $5.2 million generated at their full market value. This means that these apartment building owners paid roughly $363 per unit in village taxes versus the $26,000 per unit that they would owe without the exemptions. And that works out because what I did was I looked at Wendell Terrace, which is a co-op building that is on the tax roll, and they are actually paying in their co-op fees about $3,000 per unit in property taxes. That's a lot more than the $363 that's being paid for all of the other apartment buildings that are off the tax roll. The Hempstead School District reported receiving pilots of $1.9 million in 2009. And it was interesting, at the budget workshop meeting, the business official said, well, actually, in at first a positive way, that we were going to receive $2 million in pilots as anticipated in this current upcoming budget year, that the amount went up to $2 million. And I had to say to him, well, that means that there are more properties coming off the tax roll, one of which was the 59600 project that I talked about a few moments ago, and then the others would be maybe the pilots that may have been granted to Key Food or to Mercedes, or some of the business development that's transpired over the last year. And I don't talk about those business abatements because they don't put the same kind of stresses on our infrastructure in our schools that apartment buildings do. But excuse me, but I'm sure when we get a complete exemption report, like municipalities are required to give since 2008, change in the law, that we're going to, I think, be quite amazed at how much business property is actually off the tax roll, and then what those exemptions look like. In looking at the report from Nassau County's IDA, what was interesting, and I'm going to see if I have that here, what was interesting is the kinds of things that were given abatements in other communities and the promise of the kinds of jobs that would create, and how different that is for our community. And I said we're going to do a whole segment next week on the Nassau County IDA, and I guess I didn't bring those notes, so I'll have to, you know, share more of that. But where I told you, it said that they gave this pilot to the Adams Court apartment complex because it stabilized the region's affordable housing or low-income housing housing base. Well, it also said that it would create something like 3 jobs and a couple of construction jobs. But in other communities where they're only abating things like sales taxes or energy taxes, they're not even abating school taxes. They're anticipating the creation of 130 jobs or 75 jobs, or one thing I think was 300 jobs. But they're not taking nearly the percentage of the property off of the tax roll through a pilot in the same way that they're doing in Hempstead. The impact of this is discriminatory. It further concentrations of poverty, and it furthers concentrations of segregation, and in my view, those are violations of federal rules, and that's where we'll pick up next time. Thanks for tuning in.
My name is Leslie K. Sneed Lundy. I'm running for a candidate to be on the school board in Hempstead because we need change. I'm not going to sit up here and tell you all that I'm going to make the change, but I want to be a part of the people that make the change and be the voices for these children in this community. It's really not about us adults, it is about the children, and we are failing them, and it is us, the parents, the educational professionals, and it is the community leaders that are failing them. I'm tired of seeing children sad. I'm tired of seeing them underprivileged unnecessarily, and that is why I'm running for this candidacy.
Mr. Hobbs?
Good evening. First of all, I would like to say thank you to the Hempstead Classroom Teachers Association, to the League of Women Voters, to everyone that came out tonight. My name is Waylon Hobbs, and I'm running for school board trustee. I've been a resident of the village of Hempstead for over 40 years. I am a product of the Hempstead public school system. I am a lieutenant with the Hempstead Fire Department. I'm also the chaplain of the fire department and the clergy liaison for New York City Police Department. I presently am a member of the Fulton Street School Safety Committee. There are so many familiar faces here tonight. I see some teachers that have taught me when I was in the school system. I'm running because I want to see our children succeed academically. There is a book that says, "All Children Flourishing," and I believe that it is time for us to support our children and put our children first. We know that there are some things that need to be done with our school. We have some great teachers. I'm a person that believes in accountability, transparency, and putting children first. So that's why I'm running for the school board. Thank you.
Ms. Graisley?
Good evening.
Pull it to you.
Good evening. Can you hear me? I'm Shelley Brazeley, and I am running for school board trustee. I have been a resident of Hempstead for over 50 years. I attended school in Hempstead. I went to Dorothy K. Rahbyn, some of you might know what that is. I went to Jackson School, and I attended Hempstead High. I was a first class in this building. I've worked in the community, and I've worn many hats in the community. I've owned businesses here. I ran a dance school at the Salvation Army for 12 years, and a lot of children succeeded and excelled as a result of the dance school. I had an art gallery and bookstore in Hempstead for over 12 years. Many of you were my clients. I'm running because it really is time for a change. I am the adult I am today because I learned everything I know in this community. And my heart is sick because the children are not benefiting from being in this community right now. And there are great things in the community. In addition to me going through the school system, my children did, and my children are doing very well. And they matriculated. My youngest graduated from Hempstead High last year. So I know that great things can come from this community. We have fabulous teachers, we have fabulous parents, and we have brilliant children. And we just have to tap the power within them. So I'm running because I think that I can be a part of the change that will give our children hope.
Mr. Watts.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Curtis Watts. I've been born and raised in this Hempstead community. I am married to my supportive and lovely wife, Felicia Watts. I have 3 children that came through, I have 4 children, 3 that came through the Hempstead public school system. I have 1 that is now recently, that is a sophomore in her sophomore year here. So I am truly concerned about her well-being as well as the rest of the 6,300 children in this community, in this school district, whether they're black or Hispanic. I am, I serve our God at Union Baptist Church under the leadership of Reverend Dr. Cedric Vaughn Easley. I'm a businessman in this community for over 17 years. I have a barbershop in this community where I have plenty of encounters with the children in this community. And, you know, just to see just conversation that these kids are conversating about, just these children in the whole, the shootings, just the overall of what's going on. I mean, I'm here for accountability for our children and our district, and I want to make sure that everything is clear, that we can begin to bring the people back, the community, the parents, back to want to be involved with the school board, that we can work together to bring this district back to where it was once before. It's so important that we inform our community on what's taking place in our district, and everything should be open, that everyone should be able to see and be clear and have an understanding, so that we can have a board of transparency, that we can work together to build our district back up to where it used to be. Well, my number one thing is that I am one who is able to agree to disagree. Like I said before, you know, if my idea don't go forth, I can stand behind what's going forth and be able to support what's going forth for our district. If it's not something that I don't agree on, and I will have a meeting with the community, and we can vote on in the community what we feel is right by the decisions that are made by the school board. I feel that I'm one that's part of this community. I work in this community, so I don't only, I have no problem with coming up to the school, playing a part and walking around in the school. I have a good relationship with a lot of the children of today. I have no problem with spending time with them, talking with them. I've came up here, spoke with the JV basketball team. I'm open. I volunteer my services, and I'm just willing to work with the board to make the proper decisions for us to go forward as a district.
I will fight for these children. So whatever teachers don't live up to their standards, whatever administrative staff don't live up to these children's standards, you're gonna have to deal with me. I was here last year when my youngest was a senior, and I'm still waiting for the superintendent to call me back. My daughter has graduated now. It's not about my daughter or my children, because now I have no more children in this school district, and my grandchildren are in decent school districts. I'm here for the children in this district and the parents with children in this district. There's too many things being overlooked, and these children are sad, and they're not being answered properly, that nobody's fighting for. I'm not saying nobody, I'm not judging anyone in this room. Don't get me wrong, because probably all of you out there feel the same way we do up here. But I'm just saying there's so much neglect with our children. And I'm here to speak for them, and I'm not going to stop. Whether I'm on this board or not, you will continue to see my face.
All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
If elected to the board, I would bring my experience as a community leader, my experience as a person that has worked with budgets and developing communities. I would make sure that we not only hold those administration accountable, but also our elected officials. That those people that we elect to office that will help to do something to subsidize funding to the schools. You know, we have more than just the taxpayers, but we have elected officials that can also help support programs. I would do that. I would also work as a team player. I'm running. I'm not running with anyone, but I can say that I'm happy to say that all of these candidates that sit up here, I would be happy to work with, because we don't see anybody sleeping, sucking their teeth, but they seem like they are interested in what you are saying, and I would love to work with them if elected.
Really needing to monitor and protect our tax base. I think a lot of what's missing is the eroding tax base and the unbelievable amount of apartment buildings that have pilots. I think there's a small amount of people paying a very, very large percentage of the taxes. And I think that we, as a board, have to research and come up with some solutions so that we can tell the town and the county that, you know, if you want to grant these people pilots, that's fine, but you need to put the money back in the pot, because our children are suffering from that. And so I think that as a community, we have to come up with ideas that's going to stop our tax base from eroding. And then we'll have money so that we can send our children on the field trips and have the different exposure that they should have so that they can become complete, well-rounded citizens. We need more programming in place so that every child, first we need to understand that all children are capable of learning. We just have to meet them where they are. And then we need to have programming in place so that it meets the needs of all, like the automotive programming, the print shop program that used to be in place. You know, our children love the performing arts. We need programs that really minister to those areas of the children's lives. And once we bring all of that together, and I do believe that there are 5 people in this land called Hempstead that can come together and make sure that our community gets everything, every single thing that it deserves.
Well, good evening. We're just finishing the HCTA League of Women Voters school board election debate here in Hempstead. It was an incredible experience, one that I am actually glad to have witnessed. I think we are turning a corner in Hempstead in terms of the quality of leadership that is stepping forward. And I only hope that the promises that were made by these 4 residents tonight will in fact take place once they are elected. You will see more from each of the candidates here on We the People over the next 2 weeks. Our intention is to give you another opportunity to hear what they are offering our community. We certainly need it, and of course, we'll deal a lot more with budget issues, in particular the pilots that are taking $20 million in revenue out of our district. I'll see you next week.